Okay, let us begin. So I think in your section I'm still to upload the books, but anyways, till the lecture, after the lecture, I will upload the books, the textbooks and the reference books on the Blackboard. For uploading the lectures, I want to upload them all at once. So just give me maybe few more days. I'm going through them. They are prepared. I can upload them right now. But the thing is, I don't want to change it later on. Change them later on. So just give me a few more days, and I will upload all of them together so that you can print them, download them, whatever. You can keep them at one place. So today we are going to start with the first topic of the okay. Let me see. Can you see my screen now? Okay.
Yes, we
So
see it, but it's mirrored, I think, 10 times.
yeah. Okay. Now you see the slides. Uh, so today we are going to begin with chapter 3. As I mentioned yesterday, that we will be going through topics, or we'll be starting with topics which we have already covered in highway engineering course as well. So chapter 3 is one of them. It talks about road users, vehicles, and roadway characteristics. Let me do something else. So I'm starting my video, and if you see my voice is breaking, then you can let me know. Okay, I hope it will work. Okay, so chapter 1 and 2 of the textbook are for general introduction of traffic engineering. We will not cover them. Okay, we are starting with chapter 3. Okay, so chapter 3 is about road users, vehicles, and roadway characteristics. A traffic system comprises of 5 components. Any traffic system comprises of 5 components. These components are road users, vehicles, streets and highways, traffic control devices, and the general environment. Okay. Road users, who are the road users? Anybody who is on the road. Whether he is driving a car, so he will be a driver. Whether he is walking beside the road or crossing the road, a pedestrian. Whether he or she is going on a bicycle, it will be a bicyclist. Or whether he is just sitting in a vehicle, that is a passenger. All of them are road users. Then we have vehicles, which are also part of the traffic system. Vehicles can be broadly classified as private and commercial. Private meaning what? Private is a vehicle which is under the use of a single owner, and he is using it for his or her own trips. A vehicle which is under a single owner and it is used by the owner for his or her own trips. So I want to like my car, your cars, they are what? They are private vehicles. Okay. A commercial vehicle is used for commercial purposes. So the owner is providing the services to other travelers or to other organizations. Okay, a commercial vehicle is that which the owner by which the owner is providing services to other entities, to other people, or to other organizations. Now, can anyone give me example of a commercial vehicle, a vehicle which is used by general public or by others who are not owning the vehicle? Go ahead. Example of a commercial vehicle.
A bus, doctor?
Yes, a bus. Yes, good. Trucks, yes, trucks, taxis, good. Heavy vehicles, rent-a-cars, yes, all of you are correct. Good. That's good. That's good. So you have the idea. Then we have streets and highways. Okay, the infrastructure of the traffic system. Okay, the structure on which vehicles are operating. Then we have traffic control devices. These are the devices which are used for regulating flow of traffic. Okay, which lane is for you, which lane is for the other drivers, where you should stop, where you can park. All these things are regulated. Your speed, your turning, all these things are controlled through traffic control devices. So anything which is controlling traffic, the flow of traffic, the stopping and movement of the drivers, that is our traffic control device. Then a general environment. The last point is the general environment. General environment is anything which is not part of the first four categories, but it is still affecting traffic flow. Anything which is not part of the first four categories, but it is still affecting traffic flow. Let me give an example, and then you can give me other examples as well. Uh, Street lights, road lights, or street lights, they are part of general environment. They are, you cannot call them a traffic control device or street or vehicle or road user, but if you don't have street lights, you will have more accidents. The driver may be driving slowly, and so on and so forth. So a street light is part of the general environment. Now give me other examples of things which can be part of general environment. Trees, good. Warning signs are traffic control devices. Omar, warning signs are traffic control devices. Trees are, trees, yes, they are part of the general environment. Anybody else has any other idea? Weather,
The
yes. Weather.
street lines.
Street lights, I gave you the example. You are repeating my words. Street lights are already.
Again?
I already
What?
said street lights, right?
Okay, I didn't listen as because it's reconnect for me. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Okay, weather, yes. Trees, yes.
Sand or barriers.
Yes. Sands or barriers, yes. Drainage, yes. Yes.
The zigzag roads, I think. Sometimes
What do you mean?
they make it as they. If I want to go from point A to B, there is a straight line, but they make it at like zigzag to pay attention with road.
Yeah, that can be. It's not, but anyways, that can be uh, part of general environment. Anyway, so now we have many examples: street lights, trees, weather, drainage, pedestrian bridges. Okay, pedestrian bridges. These are all part of general environment. So you have the idea now. Moving on, we will start talking about road user characteristics. The most important road user is a driver, because the driver is controlling the vehicle as well, and traffic is made up of vehicles. Okay, so the driver is basically directly affecting traffic. A driver is directly affecting traffic because he is controlling one unit of traffic, that is the vehicle. Okay, so as a traffic engineer, you must have a good understanding of driver characteristics to apply your knowledge effectively. To manage the traffic effectively and safely, you should know what type of characteristics the driver has. Okay, meaning what type of drivers you have, what is their physical characteristics, their vision, how much time they think, how do they react in different situations. Okay, what is their response to this situation and this situation, what if this happens on the road, then what will the drivers do. So you must have a knowledge about these things in order to manage traffic. So if you want to become a good traffic engineer, driver characteristics are important. So a major part of research in traffic engineering is understanding traveler or driver behavior. This is a very good big part of traffic engineering, just to understand. So there are researchers who are just investing their time in understanding the driver behavior. Now, what is your job as a traffic engineer, your job is to provide the information. So I'm talking about your job towards a driver. Okay, what is your responsibility towards the driver? Your responsibility is that the drivers should get the information in a clear and effective manner that induces safe and proper response. Okay, so your job is to provide the information to the driver in a clear and effective manner. Now, clarity means what? Clarity includes, it should be visible. Visibility is part of clarity, right? The colors which you are using, they should be very prominent. The size, okay, it should be large enough so the drivers to the drivers to see. Placement, where you are placing the information, it should not be hidden. And what else? Symbols which you are using, okay, the symbols you are using. So you see a P sign and a cross on the P sign. Okay, so that means no parking, right? No parking. So it should be very clear to the driver. Okay, that now another part of it is should be using symbols and things which the driver already knows. So we know in Bahrain, drivers, many drivers will understand, or almost all the drivers will understand Arabic, and many of them, a big chunk of them, will understand English as well. Okay, so you cannot provide them information in Urdu or in French or in Spanish, right? So it should be in a language that the driver understands. You should be using the symbols which the driver already knows. Okay, like I gave the example of P with a cross. Okay, so that's why if you whoever of you has got the license, they must have given you the booklet, right? They must have given you the booklet. Now let me know how many of you can raise your hands. Okay, you can raise your hands. How many of you have gone through that booklet completely? The booklet which they gave you at the time of driving exam. How many of you went through the booklet? Oh, okay. I was expecting Hussain Nabil to raise his hand. Okay. Who else? Mahmoud. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many? I want to see how many. Okay. Okay. So these are how many? You guys are thinking whether you read it or not, huh? No thinking. Okay. Well, you either you have gone through it or you did not go through it. Okay. You cannot think and answer. Okay. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 out of 30. Okay, including me, so 9 out of 30. The remaining 21 will be reported to General Directorate of Traffic. Okay, all of you will have a retest with the booklet. Okay, be prepared for it. Okay, I'm recording the session. I'm just joking. Okay, if you get a fine, it's not because of me. Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, don't go to them and say that our teacher is reporting us. I'm not reporting. Anyways, but go through them. Okay. So coming back to clarity, clarity also includes using language and symbols and signs which the driver is familiar with. And how do they make you familiar with the symbols and signs? By providing you with the information. Okay, so at the time of licensing, you get the information so that you are familiar with these things. So what we are expecting, and then the second thing is being effective. Okay, providing the information in an effective manner. Effective means what? The effectiveness of the driver depends upon the effectiveness of the information depends upon where you are providing the information. So information should be provided where the response is required. Information should be provided where the response is required. For example, a stop line. A stop line. A stop line is provided at the intersection because at the intersection I need the driver to stop. So if you place the stop line before the intersection, it will confuse the driver. There's a stop line, but why should I stop? Okay. Similarly, you see the arrow signs on the lanes. Okay. So arrow signs are given at a location where lanes are used for different directions. Okay, so I need the drivers to be in different lanes according to their movement. So this is why we provide the arrow signs. Similarly, you see the speed limit signs. They are placed at locations where we feel the driver will tend to overspeed. Okay, so effectiveness is related to the use of the sign. They should be used where you need a response. Okay, so by completing these things, we are hoping that the driver will respond in a safe and proper manner, meaning he will save himself, he will save his vehicle from accident, he will save other road users from accident, and he will respond in a proper manner. Proper meaning according to the law and expectations, according to traffic laws and expectations. Okay, so red light means I'm expecting the driver to stop. This is a safe response. This is according to the law, and other drivers are also expecting that if a side has red light, then the driver will not come from that side. Okay, similarly at a roundabout, or if you are in the right hand side lane, the drivers are expecting you to take the right turn. If instead of doing that, you go over the island and try to go straight, this is improper, unsafe, against the law, and so on and so forth. So proper response means according to the law and expectation of other drivers. Now, two driver characteristics are important for traffic engineers. They are visual acuity and reaction process. So visual acuity is related to the vision of the driver. Okay, how far or how near he can see, and how good he can see, and so on and so forth, how clearly he can see. And reaction process. Okay, so reaction process means the process by which the driver will take the information and decide what to do. So reaction process is taking the information and deciding what to do. So one characteristic is related to his vision, the other one is related to his thinking process. These two characteristics are important for the driver. These two characteristics are important for the driver, and they are overlapping. They are overlapping. You are using both of them together. And if one of them is not functioning properly, then your response will not be safe and proper. For example, there is not enough lighting on the road. So that means your vision is hindered. Okay, now I cannot see properly. If I cannot see properly, then my reaction process will be slower and it may not be accurate as well. Okay, similarly, if I'm distracted because of my phone, okay, so I may be looking at something in front of me, but I will not react properly because my mind is somewhere else. Okay, so these two characteristics work together, and they must work together without any hindrance, without any disturbance, so that you have a safe and proper response. Okay, there are a couple of other human factors which are also important for the traffic engineer for traffic flow. They are personality and psychology of the driver. Personality and psychology of the driver. Personality means his personal background. Personal background. For example, education, gender, age, experience, so on and so forth. Okay. So there have been studies which have found that young drivers are more aggressive, they are more involved in accidents as compared to old or experienced drivers. Okay. Similarly, there have been studies about gender as well. Now, I will not go into any debate. I will just quote you a couple of results from previous studies. And these results say that female drivers are less involved in accidents, and female drivers take more precautions in everything, not just driving, okay? In everything, even if they are working in office, if they are doing something, they take more precautions as compared to male drivers. Okay, so these are some studies. If you don't agree with them, no problem. Okay, you have your own opinion. So this is about personality. Personality can affect the driving. And the psychology is the physical and mental state of the driver at the time of driving. The physical and mental state of the driver at the time of driving. For example, you are coming from your office. So you must be tired, or you had an argument with your boss, okay, or the other way around, maybe you are coming from home and you had an argument with your other boss, right? People who are married, they have two bosses, okay. If they are doing their own business, that then they have one boss which is at home, okay. But otherwise you have two bosses at least, huh? If you include the sons and daughters as well, then you have many. Okay, so maybe you had a bad day, an argument with other boss and any of your bosses, and you are not feeling good. Okay, this can affect your driving as well. You may be more aggressive. You may be taking rash decisions. Okay, you are going somewhere to a hospital. Okay, you are not feeling. You have a fever. Okay, so you are drained out and you are not paying attention. Okay, so this is part of psychology. Okay, now the problem with these characteristics is you cannot measure them. You cannot measure the personal and psychological condition of the driver. There is no scale which can measure the personality and psychology, right? So if you cannot quantify them, you cannot measure them, then you cannot use them in design, right? Because for design we need what? For design we have equations, we have models, we have tables and figures and charts. So we need numbers, right? We need numbers. So if something is not measured, something cannot be quantified, how can I use them in those models and equations and so on? Okay, so they cannot be quantified. So how do we deal with the personality and the personal and psychological issues of the driver? We deal with them through enforcement and licensing. Through enforcement and licensing. Enforcement of traffic laws. So this is why we have the traffic laws. You know how to drive, okay, and you know how to avoid accident, but still we have traffic laws. Okay, so irrespective of what age you are, what gender you are, how much experience you have, what is the education, these are the laws you have to follow. So once you get the license, you are bound to be following these laws. Okay, so for example, you are not feeling good, you are not you are stressed, you are going in a hurry, but still you have to follow you have to follow the red light, you have to stop there. Okay, still you have to be in your own lane, still you have to be under the speed limit and so on. Okay, so this is irrespective of your what type of driver you are or what type of condition you are in. Okay, and then the licensing procedure also has the same point. So once you get the license, before getting the license, they will do what? They will check your physical characteristics, okay, your eyesight and so on. They will ask you to go through, they will give you the booklet which I just mentioned. Okay, you must go through it, okay, at least once in your life. Okay, so that you can save your life. So the booklet, and what else? They will ask you to go through these what do you call that? Driving lessons, right? Where you have an instructor who is teaching you something while he is busy with his phone. Okay, this is, I found it very common. I don't know why. And another amusing thing is how is it possible that they can talk for so long? They have a lecture of a lesson of 1 hour and be constantly busy with their earphones for 1 hour. I don't know how is it possible. Okay, but anyways, this is a procedure, right? You have to go through it. You have to take the lessons. Okay, you are given the booklet, and then when you are given the test, they will ask you to go through different situations, right? Go through the signal, go through the roundabout, take a right turn, take a U-turn. They will ask you to do all these things. Why? So they can test you, that you know how to behave in all situations. Maybe you are young, maybe you are uneducated, whatever you are, but you must know what to do in certain situations. If you don't behave properly, they will not give you the license. Even if you get the license, even if you get the license, but still somehow you got the license. Okay, there are people like me. I pray 2 rakat before any test, especially the traffic related test. I pray 2 rakat, then I give charity, then I go for the test. Okay, this is what I do. Usually it works. Okay, and then you have people like me on the roads. Okay, dangerous. So you have drivers who, after getting the license, they are not behaving properly. Okay, maybe they are distracted, they are not good drivers, whatever. So what will happen to these drivers? They will get into violations, they will get into accidents. So now for these drivers all around the world, there's a system of points. Okay, even in Bahrain, it has been implemented for last 5-6 years now. Okay, so if you keep on getting into violations, they will keep on increasing your points. At some point of time, they will take away the license. You can get into jail as well. They will increase your fine. With every point, they will increase your fine. Okay, your insurance fees also increases. If you keep on getting into accidents and violations, your insurance fees increases as well. So then we try to penalize the drivers who got the license but they're not behaving properly. Okay, these are all penalties, points, fines, suspension of license, insurance fees. These are all penalties to make the driver more aware that you are not behaving properly. So this is to take care of the personality and psychology of the psychological issues of the driver. Coming back towards the what do you call the visual acuity. Okay, so the vision of the driver can be divided into 3 ranges. The vision of the driver can be divided into 3 ranges: acute vision, fairly clear vision, and peripheral vision. So these visions or these ranges are measured from the direct line of sight of the driver, the central line which you see coming from the center of the eye, the pupil, right? They call this the pupil. So the line which is coming out from the center of the eye, that is the line of sight. Obviously, you don't see, you don't only see the thing which is in the center of your eye. You see a whole spectrum of things, right? You see the whole range of things. So from the center, 3 to 10 degrees on any side. From the center of your line of sight, 3 to 10 degrees on any side is acute vision. Acute vision. For reading, you need things to be in acute vision. So if you are not looking at the screen directly now, you may not be able to read the text. Okay. So for reading, if you need, that means anything which is in acute vision is non-problematic, right? Because everything is clear. Color, shape, text, distance, everything in acute vision is good, safe. Okay, no problem. Okay, then we have 10 to 12 degrees from the line of sight. The next range is 10 to 12 degrees from the line of sight. We call it fairly clear. Okay, this is good if you just want to see the major details of an object. For example, color, shape, some text which is written in a large font, that can also be seen in the fairly clear vision, field of vision. Okay, so major details. Okay, things which are detectable without any attention. Okay, so like speed limit. So you have a big board which has a big number. You can easily see it from the, if it is in your fairly clear field of vision, you can easily see it. Okay, then beyond fairly clear, we have peripheral vision. Okay, they have written it 120 to 180, but basically it is from 60 to 90 on both sides. Okay, so 60 on one side, 60 on the other side, so that is 120. 90 on one side, 90 on the other side, which is 180. So basically 60 to 90 to any side of your line of sight, that is peripheral vision. You know, going above fairly clear up to 60 to 90 degrees on any side from your line of sight, that is peripheral vision. Okay, so in peripheral vision, most of the things are you know, most of the things are not clear. Okay, things are not clear. You can detect things and their movement, but you cannot see their details. Okay, for example, so a person is standing right beside you. There's a person who is standing right beside you. You may not be able to see that this person is wearing white color clothes. Okay, but you may be able to detect that there is a person and he is standing beside me, and if that person starts moving, you will sense as well. So that is in the peripheral vision. Okay, so in the peripheral vision, you can detect the movements. In the peripheral vision, you can detect the movements. Okay. Now let me do one thing. Okay, so again a small activity. I will give you two questions. Okay, I'll start with the first question. You will see it as a poll here. The first question is, which field of or let me change it. Up to which field of vision traffic related information can be seen from the driver's point of view and provided from the traffic engineer point of view. So in which, up to which field of vision traffic information is useful for you? Acute, fairly clear. Last one is peripheral. Okay, so up to which field of vision you can see the or the traffic information is useful for you. Traffic information meaning signs, markings, and these things. Up to which? So I'm talking about the maximum. Okay, maximum up to which? So if you say, for example, acute, that means if it is in the fairly clear field of vision, not useful. If you are saying fairly clear, that means if it is in the peripheral range, it is not useful. Okay, think like this. Okay, fairly clear is meaning. Some people said peripheral as well. Some people said acute as well. Good, good, good. It's nice to have some variety, right? It's nice to have some difference opinion. Okay. So even if these 5 people now vote, it will be fairly clear, right? Fairly clear. So this is the winner and this is the right answer as well. The right answer is, should be fairly clear field of vision. Up to fairly clear field of vision, you can see the traffic signs. I'm talking about traffic signs, okay? I'm not talking about a book reading. Okay, so you know traffic signs are large and they don't have so much text on them. So for them, fairly clear field of vision is enough. Fairly clear field of vision is enough to see traffic signs and traffic information, and that's it. Okay. Let me move to the next question. Okay, so fairly clear, whatever the majority has said, it is also true. This is the correct answer. So I'm going to the second question now. The second question is, objects up to which field of vision can affect your driving behavior. Again, acute, fairly clear, and peripheral. Yes, go ahead. So again, I'm talking about the maximum. So if you say only objects in acute vision, so that means any object which is in fairly clear or peripheral vision will not affect, and so on. You know, option 1 must be feeling so alone right now. Nobody is choosing it. Yeah, good. Just for the sake of humanity, right? To prove that we are humans. Okay, again, you guys are correct. Majority of you are correct. It's peripheral vision. So something gets in your peripheral vision, it can still affect your driving behavior. Okay, the most common example is changing your lane or taking turns. So when you are changing your lane, something beside you is important. Okay, you want to know where the other driver is in the other lane. Okay. Similarly, you are taking a turn, you must know where the curve is, the traffic island or the median, where is it when you're taking. So this will come in your peripheral vision. This will come in your peripheral vision. When you are parking, coming out of the parking, peripheral vision is the most important thing for you. Okay. So yes, majority of you are correct. Peripheral vision. Okay. Going back to the. So this is what is written here, what we have already voted for. So peripheral vision is someone blinds your peripheral vision. You cannot see outside the side windows. Cannot see outside the windows. Then that means you will not have an idea about your position in relation to other drivers and your speed and these things. Okay, so you get an idea about your speed if you are looking at if the peripheral vision is clear. Okay, moving to the second characteristic, that is perception reaction time. So perception reaction, I told you, reaction process. So after looking at something, you take your time to decide and then you act upon your decision. This whole thing is known as perception reaction process. After getting the information, the process to come and implement your decision. Okay, after getting the information, the process by which you come and decide and implement your decision, that is perception reaction process. The time which is consumed in that process is known as perception reaction time. Okay, the time which is consumed in perception reaction process is known as PRT, perception reaction time. This time is consumed in 4 stages. So there are 4 stages to reaction process: detection, identification, decision, and response. Detection, identification, decision, and response. Detection means becoming aware of something which requires your attention, which requires your response. Becoming aware of something which requires your response. For example, a pedestrian standing on the side of the road, or a speed limit sign, or an arrow on the pavement. Okay, or a signal in front of you. So you become aware, you sense that there's something on which I have to take an action. Okay, then identification. Identification meaning acquiring more information about that event or about that object. Okay, so for example, if you are talking about a pedestrian, then how far is the pedestrian from you? What is his position from the road? Is he moving, running? What is he doing? Okay, if it is an arrow sign, then is it how far is it from me, and what type of arrow is it, and so on and so forth. This is acquiring more information. So you sense something is there, then you pay attention to it. Okay, this is identification. Then the last one, not the last one, the third one is taking a decision. Taking a decision. So you, on the basis of the information you have acquired, you decide what to do. Okay, so if it's a pedestrian, you may decide you have to stop. If it's an arrow sign, you may decide you have to change your lane. Okay, and then the last stage is response. This is the initiation of your action. The initiation of your action in the light of your decision. The initiation of the action according to your decision. So you have decided you have to stop. Putting your foot on the brake is your response. If you decided you want to change your lane, moving your steering wheel is your response. Now, why I'm saying initiation? Okay, because the final outcome of your response does not depend upon your reaction process. The final outcome of your response does not depend upon your reaction process. For example, you decided to stop, so you put your foot on the brake. You decided to stop, you put your foot on the brake. Okay, how much time the car will take to stop, this does not depend upon your reaction process. Your reaction process is stopped when you put your foot on the brake. That is the end of your response. Up to the size of the car, according to the speed of the car, it may take different times. Okay, so a truck going at 50 kilometers per hour may take more time to stop than a car which is going at 50 kilometers per hour. Okay, and it is not related to the driver. It is not because the driver of the truck was thinking slowly. It is not because of that. It is purely because of the car. So both drivers may take the same amount of time to decide I have to stop, but their vehicles will take different times to stop eventually. Okay, so light touch, yeah, setting your foot on the brake. Yeah, setting your foot on the brake is the response. Okay, that is the correct interpretation. Okay, so these now AASHTO has given different values, or the American institutions have observed different drivers in different situations, and they have come up with these values, which are the normal values. Okay, like the most common values, not normal, common values. So if you are stopping at a signal, you need 1 second to react. Stopping on a highway, you need 2.5 seconds. Okay. Stopping, so these are for normal stops. The first two are for normal stops. Then you have stops which are for avoiding something. Something suddenly came in your way. You were not expecting it. So the other timings are for that. Okay. I will not go into detail, but just to highlight few points here. The first point is, you can see avoidance times, the reaction time required for avoidance is higher as compared to normal stopping. Sorry, any question? Okay, so I was saying normal stopping means stopping at a signal, stopping at a stop sign, okay, stopping at the front of a gate or something like this. This is normal stopping. So in those cases, you need less time. For avoiding something which suddenly came in your way, you need more time. So expected things need less reaction time, unexpected things need more reaction time. This is the thing which you can see from the table. Normal stopping times less, avoidance times higher, because avoidance means something which was unexpected came in your way. Okay, so you need more time to think about it because this is something unexpected. Secondly, if you look at the time for normal highways and then for urban roads have higher time as compared to rural or other highways. Why? Because on urban roads there are more distractions for you, or on urban roads there are more distractions for you. Distraction in the form of vehicles, distraction in the form of pedestrians, roadway signs, advertisement boards. So these things are more frequent and of higher magnitude on urban areas as compared to other roads. Okay, so driving on urban roads requires more attention because there are more distractions. So if you are getting more distracted, you need more time to think about taking a decision. Okay, that's why they ask you to not use a mobile phone, right? Because mobile phone is doing what? It is distracting you. Okay, so anything comes in your way, then you will require more time to think and decide, and then you may not have that much time and you get into accident. So just give me a minute to complete this topic of expectancy. So as I said, expected situations need more time rather than unexpected situations. So we come to the topic of expectancy. What is expectancy? Expecting something to happen. Expectancy is expecting something to happen. A driver has three types of expectancies on the road. A driver has three types of expectancies on the road. Okay, he is uh, expecting the things to happen in three different manners: continuity, event, temporal. Continuity, event, temporal. Continuity means expecting the things of immediate past to happen in the future as well. Expecting the things to happen of the immediate past to happen in the future as well. For example, cars going in front of you, you don't expect them to stop or slow down suddenly without any apparent reason. Okay, unless you can see something in front of you, you don't expect that car to slow down or stop. And this is a major reason of having rear end accidents on the highways in Bahrain. I'm sure many of you have seen these accidents even with 3 or 4 cars as well. Okay, cars having rear end accidents back to back. Okay, something cars bumping you from the rear. Okay, and this is the main reason for that: violation of continuity. The car in front of you stopped or slowed down, and you did not have enough time, the extra time which you required to stop before bumping into that car. Okay, so this is the reason for that. Then we have event expectancy, which is the opposite of continuity. Events that have not happened in the past, you don't expect them to happen in the future as well. Events that have not happened in the past, you don't expect them to happen in the future as well. For example, in your neighborhood, there's a villa. According to your information, that villa is empty. So when you are passing in front of that villa, from in front of the gate of that villa, you are not expecting any car to come out from there. You are not expecting any person to come out from there. Okay, this is event expectancy. Now let's say somebody that the occupants of that villa came at night. You did not know about them, and when you were passing in front of that villa, they started to come out. Okay, so if you are at high speed, which you may be because you were not expecting someone to come out, or if they are coming out at high speed, there are high chances of an accident, and that accident will be because of violation of event expectancy. Okay, so event expectancy meaning things which have not happened in the past will not happen in the future as well. Then we have temporal expectancy. Temporal meaning expecting things to change according to a specific pattern, according to a routine. For example, a traffic signal. Okay, so on a traffic signal, you know there will be red light for some time, then there will be yellow light for a very small amount of time, and then there will be green light again for an extended time. Okay, and so on and so forth. Let's say on a particular signal, the lights turn from red to green directly. This will be against your temporal expectancy. This may confuse the drivers. Some of them may start moving, some of them may not move, and you can get into accidents. Other temporal expectancies are, you know, at what times traffic is higher, and you know at what times traffic will be lower. So at a particular times you are expecting high traffic, particular other times you are expecting low traffic. Okay, and same thing with the locations as well. You know, at particular locations there are curves. At particular locations the traffic is normally higher, and so on and so forth. This is all part of temporal expectancy. So temporal expectancy is expecting things to change, but according to a certain routine. So if things are happening according to continuity or event expectancy or temporal expectancy, you will act on your decision faster as compared to things which are not happening according to them. Okay, so this is it from my side. As I said, I will take the attendance directly from the blackboard. So if you have any questions, go ahead. If you don't have any questions, you can leave. This is what I said at the start, Hussein. I'm going through the slides so I can upload them together. Okay, so just give me a few more days. I'll upload all of them together, so you can print them and start writing notes. For the time being, just bear with me. Okay, write it on a paper, and then later on you can transfer it on the slides. Okay, any other question? Good, we are all good. One more thing, if any of you is having any problem in making the group, you can post it in the team that I am alone, I don't have a group. So maybe people who are alone, they can contact you. Okay, there may be some other people who are alone as well. Secondly, I have created a folder, and you are asked to submit your the file of your first submission in that folder. So if you go to that folder and you find that these are 2 people and we can be 3 as well, you may contact these people and ask them to let you join them. Okay, this can be other thing. If you have a group of 2 people, you can ask them that we can be 3. The project will not change. Okay, so these are the 2 things which you can do. Okay, so that's why I created the folder, and you can use the team. I don't mind if you post in the team about your making a group on something. I don't mind. Okay, so all the best, and I'll see you on Thursday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
عليكم السلام.